everybody. Ren Carothers here with your latest edition of the Future Stars Friday forecast. And what's so cool about this week's episode is that, yeah, we talk about the future, but boy, my guest and his farm has an illustrious past that still is influencing what we're going to see in the coming years. And that guest is Walker Hancock Jr. He is the president of Claiborne Farm. Actually, your name is Seth, your official first name, your legal first name. But there's a funny anecdote that I saw from your father, and it was actually in the book Bred to Run, The Making of a Thoroughbred by Mike Helm. He was talking about how your mother wanted to name you after him and that the middle name would be Walker, but he felt a little weird about it and said, well, we're going to call it Walker.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You can call me whatever you want.
Exactly. Well, I just thought it was funny, though, because he just said, we're going to call it Walker. You know, talk about just the longevity and the patriarchy of this farm. I mean, yeah, you got a lot of guys, you know, named in honor. I mean, going back, you're the fourth generation president of Claiborne Farm from the Hancock family. This was originated in 1910 by A.B. Hancock. And then you had Bull Hancock take the reins, and then your father at 23 years old basically had to take up where his father left off when he sadly passed away. I mean, when you, what was it, in 2015 that you took over?
Yeah, 2014.
2014. How old were you at the time?
Let's see, I was born in 89, so
crazy.
I was a little older than my father. You know, thankfully I was blessed enough, lucky enough that he's still around. So,
yes.
You know, he was thrown to the fire. He had to figure things out for himself. I'm still lucky enough that he's around, and I can always bounce ideas off of him, and he gives me that sense of security that he won't let me stray too far off the path, hopefully.
Oh, you gotta love that. And one of the major things that he accomplished nearly right off the bat was the syndication of Secretariat, the horse that I consider to be the greatest of all time, for $6 million, which at the time was a record. What is it like knowing that you are now master of a farm that is responsible for the likes of standing a horse like that? You know, again, a horse that many consider to be the greatest of all time.
Yeah, you know, he did that when he was 23 years old. So I'm just glad I didn't have to do that when I was 23. But, you know, we have a great team here at the farm. It makes my job a whole lot easier. Bernie Sams does a great job with our stallions, and Bradley Purcell is a great farm manager. They definitely make my life a whole lot easier.
Well, I gotta say, and I mentioned to you this when I first got you on the line. You know, I've seen Walker at the track a number of times. He's always been so nice. The nervous energy you hear in my voice is because I really want to do justice to Claiborne Farm. Again, as I mentioned off the top, the history that this farm has had in our sport, it resonates today, and it's going to resonate for generations yet to come. I mean, we're talking about a farm that not only stood Secretariat, but also, I mean, you had the likes of Nasrullah, you had Bold Ruler, you had Buckpasser, I mean, Mr. Prospector. It's just a who's who, Danzig. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal to walk through that cemetery and out from the office. I mean, it's like a who's who of thoroughbred racing.
Yeah.
The lineage, and you know, you look back to any pedigrees, and you just you're bound to see one of those sires on the pedigree somewhere on the page. So, you know, I'm a little numb just because I see it every day, but I try not to be. You know, I try to be thankful for that opportunity that I have.
You've always come across as so humble. I mean, my gosh. What is it like when you see people reminiscing about these horses and their accomplishments, knowing that you actually have that intimate connection with them through your family?
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. We'll get like letters and stuff of just old fans and telling us how appreciative they are of things that we do in the tours and things like that. Around the Derby time, especially. Unfortunately, this year we won't really experience it that much, but like the cemetery is just full of flowers, and the amount of respect that the stallions, those deceased legends still have is pretty impressive, and it's really something special.
I mean, just looking, for example, at Bold Ruler, again, a son of Nasrullah. Actually, I want to mention real quickly, I had discussed this with my last week's guest. Robin Murray of Coolmore, and I was talking about Mirko and just how remarkable it is that Mirko, for viewers who didn't tune in last week, Mirko was bred by Federico Testio. I mean, this was a horse that was sold. He wanted to get him out of danger. This is during World War II. He had a bomb shelter built for the horse to keep him from, any harm or theft. And so the fact that this horse Mirko survived and then went on to sire Nasrullah, who then in turn sires Bold Ruler, and then you have Mirktik, who goes on to sire the Northern Dancer line. I mean, it's just to think that what could have potentially have happened if we did not have that horse make it out of World War II, right?
Or the foresight of my grandfather to go over there after World War II and take advantage of the economic situation and bring those stallions back over here.
Exactly, and that is where, Bold Ruler himself, champion 3-year-old horse of the year in 1957. He's inducted into the Hall of Fame the year that Secretariat wins the Triple Crown in 73. Not only did he sire Secretariat, but he's also the sire of Bold Nesian, who then went on to sire Bold Reasoning, who's the sire of Seattle Slew. So you've got that, Triple Crown connection there again. And we mentioned Danzig. He was 3 for 3 in his short career. Woody Stevens said this was just one of the fastest horses he'd ever seen, and really incentivized getting him in over there at Claiborne. And he went on to sire Danehill, De Jour, Hard Spun, and a horse you have standing there now, War Front. Again, we can talk about Mr. Prospector. When you were growing up, who obviously these horses had passed well before you came along, but for me, growing up, Secretariat, as I've already mentioned before, and just in terms of talent, is the horse I measure all others against. For you, when you're growing up in it, who's the horse that captured your imagination, if there was one? Or was it a couple of them that you were just a huge fan of, even though you never got to see them run in person?
Pulpit was the first horse that I really remember. That was in 1997. I remember going to the Bluegrass Stakes, and he won that day for us. And that was really the first kind of horse that we've had that I really remember. That was in 97. I was 8 years old. I do remember that day vividly, and ever since then, I obviously remember most of the races. But Pulpit was the first one. I was 3 months old when Secretariat passed away, so I was unfortunately a little too young to be able to remember him. But Pulpit was the first.
Well, it's actually my the photo I posted to promote the podcast, or the broadcast rather, tonight. I used a photo of Secretariat, and the head that's close to the camera, you can't make out who it is, but that's actually my older brother. And I always hassle my mom about the fact that, because I was alive when Secretariat was alive. I was actually 10 when he passed away. So I always tell her all the times we went down to Kentucky and you never took me to go see Secretariat. I don't let her live that down. But
yeah, I just recently saw a photo the other day of Secretariat's grave when he passed and how many flowers there were. It's really remarkable. I think we're gonna post that at some point.
Oh, please do.
It was really cool to see.
Well, you were not only the Claiborne responsible for Bold Ruler, but you also had Prince Quillo, who is Secretariat's dam sire there. Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah. You talk about my grandfather bringing those stallions over. Brought Nasrullah on Secretariat's sire side, and then Prince Quillo on the dam side. It's like you said, what would have happened if that never, that he never would have gone over there or had the foresight to do that. So it's pretty incredible. I unfortunately can't take any credit for it, but it's pretty cool to reflect on and think about.
Well, that's part of what goes into now you taking the mantle and the stewardship of this farm. How did that conversation go? Just out of curiosity.
It's something I knew I wanted to do from an early age. I was born and raised on the farm. I've lived here my whole life. I certainly wasn't pushed into this position. My dad told me, if I didn't have a heart for it or a passion, then there's no sense of doing it because you can't do this halfway. You really have to be involved and love it and respect the animals and all that good stuff. So, and love the sport. So, thankfully it's something, like I said, I got that bug, I guess. Maybe Pulpit won the Bluegrass in 97 and, from then on out, it's something I've always wanted to do.
What, you go to school, you go to college. What was there's an apprenticeship that goes along, not through the college itself, but just there on the farm, I'm sure, of learning the ropes in farm management. Can you take us through that?
Sure, yeah. When I was 13, 14 years old, summers from way, out of school, they put a weed eater in my hands and told me to go we'd eat the double fence road all the way down to the creek. So, I started out doing that. I put the hay and the straw in the barns. Finally, when I was a little bigger, old enough, and I was big enough and strong enough, I was able to work with the yearlings. And the first summer I worked with the yearlings was the summer, of 2007. And that's when Blaine was a yearling. And Blaine was actually in my barn that summer that I worked with the yearlings.
That's crazy.
So I had a connection with him for a long time, and I worked, obviously did the sales prep that summer, and then summers home from school and college, I would do various things on the farm. But I definitely started at the bottom, and I saw all the hard work that gets put in that a lot of people don't understand or realize. It's not fun sitting in that hayloft in the middle of July when it's 100 degrees outside. Hay and straw floated through the air. But it's one of those things that I'm glad I did, and I feel like I have a better grasp of things because of that.
Well, I mean, much smaller scale. I grew up on a thoroughbred horse farm as well. So I know about hauling the buckets and getting the bales, and regretting wearing shorts because you're lugging these hay bales around. They're scratching up your legs. But it's kind of funny because you actually stood one of my other favorite horses, and we actually had a son of him at our farm, and that's Round Table, another son of Prince Quillo. And this is a horse. Do you feel as I do that when we talk about the all-time greats on social media, it seems like he doesn't come up in the conversation enough?
Yeah, he's oftentimes forgotten.
Yeah.
When he retired, he was the world's leading money earner of any racehorse ever. Yeah. I think it was like $1.5 million, or maybe 1.3, something like that.
1.7.
In 1958 or whatever it was, that was a 50s. Whole lot of money.
Yeah.
So a lot of people forget him. He didn't win a Triple Crown or anything like that, but he was a really solid, hard-knocking racehorse. Royally bred and ended up being a good stallion.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. I mean, Round Table, again, by Prince Quillo, of Knight's Daughter by Sir Cosmo, bred by Arthur Bull Hancock. Lifetime record. I mean, people, when we talk about iron horses, this is an iron horse. 66 starts, 43 victories, 1.7 million in earnings, champion grass horse of 57, horse of the year, champion handicap horse, and champion grass horse of 58. He repeated that in 59, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 72. He was a leading sire. His progeny includes Poker, who's the dam sire of Seattle Slew. I mean, this is a horse. 31 of those races were stakes, okay? And 5 times at 1.25 miles, he went in under 2 minutes, and 3 times that was carrying 130 pounds. It's unbelievable.
That's the definition of a war horse right there.
It just is mind-boggling to me, especially when we talk about when you do look at horses like this, the fact that you have the horses that have that connection. I mean, you guys have a connection to Kelso, for example. That's another iron horse, and Forgo. When you hear about weights in these modern times and just the different types of way in which we look at the conditions for handicap races, what is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we'd run more of them. Instead of having allowance condition races of 1 other, 2 other than, 3 other than. I mean, put them all together and let's bring back some of the weights.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they have to be some grueling kind of numbers, but we find these races hard to go with full field sometimes. So I'd love to bring back kind of a handicap kind of thought process to the racing world.
I mean, it is, again, remarkable. And just going back to, again, Prince Quillo's influence through Secretariat, being the dam sire. He, of course, was the sire of Something Royal, Secretariat's dam. Secretariat himself, I mean, this was a horse, as we discussed a little bit earlier. Your dad syndicated 23 years old to bring back to Claiborne. Did he ever tell you what it was like because he had already had the horse syndicated, the deal done rather, before he went into the Triple Crown. Just watching this horse put in track records in each leg, and in addition to going 224 in the Belmont, he wins it by 31 lengths. Has your dad just shared with you what it's like watching that, knowing you're going to have this horse in your barn?
Yeah, he's pretty humble. He's very reserved. He's not going to say much, but yeah, I know. In the movie, they depict it as he was a hard sell, but in reality, it was the exact opposite. He said only one person said no to the share, and everybody else was all in, and just were so thrilled to be a part of such an awesome racehorse.
Have you done any deals on a cocktail napkin yet?
On a cocktail napkin? No, not quite. Come close, but yeah, no.
There's still time. You're real young.
What's that?
I said there's still time. You're real young, so you've got plenty of time.
I have plenty of time to probably finagle something up on a cocktail napkin.
But we're always talking about Secretariat and how there was this expectation that he was going to hopefully recreate himself. And I think that's unreasonable, one. But two, in a way, I get chills when I watch that replay of Risen Star winning the Belmont Stakes by 14 3/4 lengths. He was a great horse. He's the sire Lady Secret, and this is a Breeders' Cup feat, so we gotta talk. She wired the field in the 86 Distaff. She's Horse of the Year, Hall of Famer. He's also had so much influence in the genetics of the game with being the sire of Secretam, who is the dam of Gone West. He's the sire of Terlingua, who is the dam of Stormcat. Stormcat nearly won the 85 juvenile. Tasso upset him. He's the he's the sire of Weekend Surprise, Broodmare of the Year, because one of the horses we see time and time again in pedigrees, she's the dam of an AP Indy, won the Classic in 92. Just the influence he's had. I think we forget because we were so hoping to see him just as a sire with a son, I guess, reproduce it. But he's had that genetic gold passed through generation after generation here.
Oh, yeah. He was a great broodmare sire. Yeah, it was a little unfair, the expectations that were placed on him. He was never going to be able to replicate those just for his outstanding race record and good looks and everything. But, yeah, it's a little unfair to say he was a bad sire. He wasn't a bad sire. He's actually a really outstanding broodmare sire. But yeah, like you said, he did lack that really key son to really carry on his lineage, but he is certainly doing it through his daughters.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And we just Lane's End and the racing world just lost AP Indy this year. He had been pensioned for a while, of course. But one of the things that was so beautiful about that horse's pedigree, and the fact that we see it time again, and a lot of the stallions you currently have on the roster have that influence, is that here you had a horse, and it was bearing out with the pedigree showing an heir apparent, where he was by Seattle Slew, and again out of a daughter of Secretariat in Weekend Surprise. And that type of, I don't know, there's a comfort in seeing what you're hoping is going to play out on a page actually be realized in the flesh. And we've seen that so often with your stock here at Claiborne. Just to go over, some of the horses that have just, the ones that we haven't already mentioned, because it's overwhelming. In addition to the horses we've already talked about, you also had raised at Claiborne, Chief's Crown, Dahlia, Easy Goer, 49er, Gallant Fox, Gamely, Gopher Wand. Gopher Wand, heartbreaking what happened to her. But in terms of the Breeders' Cup success, she did win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies before she just went on a tear at 3 and going off and winning all the grade 1s. Gulch won the 88 Sprint, Heavenly Prize, Hoist the Flag. As we mentioned, Kelso, the only 5-time Horse of the Year in history. It's just, this is a horse, 63 stars, 39 wins, 1.9, almost 2 million in earnings. Talk about what it would be like with inflation, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of great racehorses come from here, and
Personal Ensign.
Hope we can keep it going.
Oh no, I'm sure. I could keep that list going. Nureyev, Personal Ensign, River Ridge, Roy H., 2-time Breeders' Cup Sprint champion and Eclipse champion sprinter was raised there at Claiborne. And then the birthday girl. It is the anniversary of Ruffian's birthday. And she, too, was bred there. And I was actually going over her write-up on your website, and I thought it was fascinating. It says that she was 890 pounds as a yearling. By the time she was 2, she was already 16.1 hands and had a girth just over 75 inches. And I love that you have this here because it says, by comparison, Secretariat had a girth of 76 inches and Forgo had a girth of 77 inches. And that was at 4 years old for the boys there. So...
Yeah, I wish I could have seen her in the flesh. I mean, she must have been an absolute monster.
I mean, yeah. She, you know, she's a horse that still today, I mean, she's part of the lore of racing and just, you know, the beauty. Again, another horse here that you have that has made the films, Seabiscuit.
Yeah. Apparently, I guess he was a little runt, and as probably, let's see, back in those days, it would have been my grandfather, great grandfather. He didn't think he'd be much, but he turned out to be the living legend of Seabiscuit.
Do you have both DVDs there at the house? You got the Secretariat, you got the Seabiscuit right now.
yeah, Secretariat, Seabiscuit, yeah.
Oh my!
Those are great thoroughbred films.
It's unbelievable. I mean, Seabiscuit, 89 starts, 33 wins. Gosh. Okay, you had Slew of Gold, Hall of Famer. He was second in the inaugural Breeders' Cup Classic. You have Storm Flag Flying Rays there. Won the 2002 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Eclipse Champion filly. She herself a daughter of My Flag, who won it in 95. She went on and took on the boys in the Belmont, was third. She, of course, daughter of Personal Ensign, won the Distaff. And that was after she had that injury to her left hind leg. Personal Ensign.
Yeah, what a warrior she was.
Unbelievable. You had Swale, Claiborne's first official Derby winner, right?
Yep. He was the only one that we still owned while he won. Yeah.
84 Derby. They went on to win the Belmont. Sadly, he passed unexpectedly of a heart attack just at the barn, right?
Yeah, 7 days after he won the Belmont, he had a routine work at the track, and they were giving him a bath, and he fell over dead.
You know, I was watching this great. It's a project that Caitlin put together, interviewing basically the pillars of the sport and their experience within it. And there's this. Your father was talking about this horse, and he was tearing up as if he had just almost heard the news. It was really moving. You can tell how much he loves his horses.
Yeah. That was a tragic loss for us. You know, obviously, he would have been a great sire for us, I'm sure.
By Seattle Slew.
It's just, a horse that had so much talent and so much future ahead of him. It's unfortunately he didn't get to live any longer than he did. But
we still enjoyed him, and we still celebrate him today. You had Tempura Rays there, won the 2001 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Thunder Gulch, 95 Derby and Belmont winner. Wajima was there. Warpath won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I mean, and then just the roster you have now is so exciting too. But before we get to that, as far as, growing up, like we were discussing, and again, just having the weight of the celebrity of these horses on the shoulders, and these horses can't speak for themselves, so you guys are their ambassadors. Who was your father's favorite horse? And then aside from Pulpit, who's come along since that you've really become a fan of?
Well, obviously, Blame he'll probably be my favorite till the day I die. Just because the connection I have with him, working at the barn as a yearling, and then, him going on and winning the Breeders' Cup Classic in such dramatic fashion. And,
we're going to get to that.
Carrying on the legacy of his father and just being a generational homebred for us and our great friend and client, Del Schrenner.
Yes.
He'll always be number one. I don't ever see anyone ever taking that spot away from him. It'd be one hell of a racehorse if it is. But yeah, I know my dad was always really fond of 49er.
Yeah.
He said he was he just laid it on the line every single time. A little unlucky not to win the Derby, I think, against Winning Colors.
Yes.
But I know that was one of his personal favorites.
Well, there are so many from which to choose. Another horse, I don't know. Skipped over somehow. Nashua was at your. I mean, it's unbelievable. But we'll go on. We'll talk about the present day. Let's talk about Blame first. Why not? We won't go in order of the roster. We'll talk about Blame. As you mentioned, he won the Breeders' Cup Classic in a nail biter over a horse who had captured so many hearts in Zenyatta. So, it wasn't the typical celebration there at the end, because people had this expectation, was Zenyatta going to become the second horse to ever win the Breeders' Cup Classic twice. She was the only female to do it. She's now the only horse to win it multiple times. And Blame just repelled her at the end. Like, she put in that closing kick, and he held on. I mean, obviously you want to celebrate your horse.
That was a hell of a race. He was bound to. He had some grit that I've never seen before in a horse, and he was not going to let that mare go past her. Past him. Even if they would have gone around there again, she wasn't going to get by him. He was bound to determined to win that night, and it was an unbelievable race.
Well, I heard that Garrett Gomez actually was riding him with an injured arm. Is that true?
Yeah, he almost had to take off the horse. Yeah, he had sustained an injury. It might have been the day before. I know he was hurt. He was injured.
Oh.
And he somehow was able to give that horse one heck of a ride. And when he turned for home and busted through the seams, and Zenyatta had to come and get him, he was riding Blame to the wire, and Blame wasn't stopping.
No, I mean, it was a really incredible and hard-earned victory for sure. I mean, this is a horse who had already put in such a great season too. I mean, before winning the Classic, he had won the Whitney, 111 of Beyer over Quality Road, and the Stephen Foster Handicap. He won that at Churchill, and 103 Beyer. I mean, he was so. This wasn't a horse that it was a surprise that he's going to win the Classic.
Yeah, Blame was one of those horses that, in horse racing, you make a plan for a horse, and it rarely, you rarely see it through, just because something usually happens or whatever. But I know my dad and Al planned out Blame's campaign the winter before, and he ran in every single race they planned for him, and he showed up every time. He lost to Hainesfield in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, but. He'd shipped up to Belmont. He didn't ship very well, but he was already up there. They figured we'd run him. He wasn't 100% that day, and he still finished second.
Wow.
But I don't know if that race would have cost him Horse of the Year if he would have won it. But he's an awesome horse. Well, and the fact that he's gone on to be a great sire.
Yes.
He has Nadal looks to be one of the favorites for the Derby this year, and we're very excited about that. He's really come on here in the last year or so, and proven himself to be a top quality sire.
Well, Blame is another example of pedigree bearing out into the flesh, because this is a horse, as you were saying, by Arch, out of Liable by Seeking the Gold, second dam by Nijinsky, so that makes her a 3/4 sister to Nureyev, and a half to Fairy Bridge. Fairy Bridge is the dam of Sadler's Well. So this is just an incredible, exquisite pedigree, and it offers so much versatility, whether dirt or turf.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has Stallion's pedigree. He gets it honestly from top and bottom, and he has a race record to prove it. And he throws the looks to prove, and his offspring have obviously gone on to win some serious races.
Well, you just mentioned Nadal. Nadal is your winner of the Rebel Stakes. Before that, I won the San Vicente. Undefeated, gorgeous horse. How exciting is it for you to see this? I mean, here you were working with Blame as a yearling, you're saying, and to now see him have a horse like this on the Derby Trail. What is it like not only having one like that in the Baffert barn, but also now with the Derby being moved to September? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, they had to do what they had to do.
Yeah.
I'm not doubting anything there, but unfortunately, we're not going to get the Derby the first Saturday in May instead of the first Saturday in September. But if we're still looking forward to it. It's an American classic spectacle, and it's going to be great regardless of where it is on the calendar.
Yeah, I mean, and Nadal, I would think, is a horse that they'll just give him the benefit of more maturity, right?
You would think. I mean, the blames do seem to be better as they get older. So, he'll certainly have that advantage. He's such a big, strong horse. It seems like he's got the grit of his father. I mean, the other day when he won the Rebel, there's no reason he should have won that race. He went out there, set blistering fractions, was tested the whole way around. Horses running at him, at different parts of the races, and none of them get by him. So that was a really impressive effort, and it's very reminiscent of his father.
I was definitely impressed for the exact reasons you just laid out. I think that this is a horse that physically my gosh, he didn't even have to run the race. He looked like he'd already won it. I know he was hanging out with D. Wayne Lucas, and they had posted some photos on social media ahead of the race, and I was just taken by how beautifully put together he is.
Yeah, he was a $700,000 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And, so that pretty much tells the story there. But,
right.
I haven't seen him since that day he sold, but, I've seen pictures and looking forward to seeing what he does the rest of the year.
Well, we're going to go ahead and backtrack for a second. In addition to Blame, you also have Algorithms there. Algorithms by Bernardini. And so what we was talking about before about how you have AP Indy reflected in a lot of the stock you have there. Bernardini, of course, 2006's Eclipse champion, 3-year-old, also a son of AP Indy. And then Algorithms is out of Ava Knows the Code. And she's a horse that I consider to be a blue hen mare, and the breeding world does too. She's just been pretty prolific, huh?
Yeah. Those blue hen mares don't come around very often, but when you have one, you're sitting on a gold mine.
Yeah.
So what an amazing mare she is.
Can I tell you, just because I kind of got a reputation as being the petty geek and looking for 2-year-olds to win races at Saratoga, one of the first things I do when the sale books come out, you know how you can just, hit search through a catalog?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go search Ava Knows the Code, and I'll see if anything comes up, and then I'll try to track the horse.
Yeah, that family's live, so... Yeah, there you go.
She really is. So it's great to have him on there. He was undefeated. You have a really interesting horse there in De Marchelier. He's the only son of Dubois in Kentucky, and he's out of an unraced full sister to Group 1 winners Quarter Moon and Yesterday. For those of you who don't know, she won the Irish 1000 Guineas. She was second in the Epsom Oaks, third in the 2003 Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. How exciting is it to have a horse like that in the barn?
Oh yeah, he comes from a huge European family.
Yeah.
I know Chad Brown really thought this horse was going to be something special. Peter Brand, who owned and campaigned him, he said he thought he was one of the most talented horses he's had.
Yeah.
And for him to say that, it means something. He's had a lot of good horses throughout the years. So, he was obviously unproven and had a bad luck in the Belmont Derby, but we're so thankful that he's at the farm. He's filled out well just in the short time he's been here. He's getting a solid book of mares for a kind of a value sire, I call him, and he's going to have a huge chance. So we're really looking forward to seeing what De Marchelier can do.
Well, I'm one of the many fans of Dubois. It'd be hard not to be a fan of that horse. So it's exciting to have a son of him standing there in Kentucky. You also have
he's bound to have something good here in the States. So hopefully it's him.
Definitely. Well, you also have First Samurai, who's been a great standby horse. Giant's Causeway was your 2000 Cartier Horse of the Year. Put in that tremendous performance in his only start on dirt, going against Tisnow, running second in the Breeders' Cup Classic. First Samurai himself, he sired 4 millionaires, including a sire You Stand in Lee. He sired Justin Phillip, who's from that Ava Knows the Code line. A Last Gunfighter and Executive Privilege. So how is First Samurai doing?
Yeah, he's a hard-knocking sire. He's kind of getting older with age, and people seem to have forgotten about him, but we still breed, quite a bit of mares to him because he'll get you an honest horse.
Yeah.
And they're not the most flashy, or they won't bring the top dollar of the sale, but they'll win some races for you, and they'll get your mare started off to a good start, with their progeny. So we like breeding to First Samurai. He's honest, and he's kind of I wish he had a bit more of an opportunity in his later years, but hopefully he'll have another big horse here soon, and people won't forget about him.
Well, I just think it's great to have him representing that Giants Causeway sire line. Unfortunately, we lost Giants Causeway himself a couple years ago now. And now you have that next generation in Lee there, and we'll get to him in a minute. Before we do, let's talk about Flatter. Here's another representative of AP Indy, and that he is a son of AP Indy. He's full brother to Congrats also, which is pretty cool. This is the female family of Kentucky Derby winner Sea Hero. You've got a late in the mix, Roar, affectionately Priceless Gem, LA France, because this trails to La Troyenne, my favorite blue hen mare. And that family is just beyond prolific. So it's no.
You go back to La Troyenne, and we were talking about blue head mares a minute ago. But Wild Applause, who's in Flatter's Pedigree, she's certainly a blue head mare that we have a lot of the family still, and we have a late Yell and Tax most recently too. So that family's unbelievable, and Flatter, he's such a cool horse. He's done the hard way. I mean, he started out at $5,000. He was breeding, just any mare that we could find for him. He just started moving them up, and he was gaining momentum. And I wish he was 12 years old instead of 20. But he's still producing sales toppers. Yeah. And, he'll get you a really good horse.
Well, one of those really good horses he'll get you is Eclipse Champion 3-year-old of 2017, West Coast. I mean, that horse was tremendously talented. He was third in the Breeders' Cup Classic that year, and no shame in running third to Gun Runner, right?
That was a horse that really kind of came on towards the end of the year, and he's a really good racehorse. Yeah,
for sure. Now, you also have some horses that we're going to be looking forward to seeing what their progeny is going to do. Ironicus is one of those stallions. By Distorted Humor, he is also out of an AP Indy mare. And it's the same female family as Flatter.
Yeah. Ironicus is one of the best pedigrees of any of our stallions. And Distorted Humor he's proven to be a sire of sires.
Yes.
So, while he is a value sire, he's going to be up against it. We'll see what he can do, because he's a good-looking horse. He was, really unlucky racehorse. Missed a couple of grade ones by noses. Yeah. In particular at Keeneland when he lost I can't believe he didn't get up that day. But anyway, we're for what he is, we're really excited to see what he can do in first crop 2-year-olds.
No shame in this game. I mean, he's defeated 20 grade 1 winners. He's put in 7 triple-digit buyers over the course of his career. He set a new course record for 8.5 furlongs at Saratoga. He's a half-brother to 4 graded stakes winners on Leave, Norm Vega, Hunting, Quiet Harbor. And again, these first foals are currently yearlings, right?
No, they're currently 2-year-olds.
Oh, they're 2-year-olds. That's right. They're going to be debuting this year.
Same age crop. So
that's right.
He only has, I think, 34 2-year-olds, but it only takes a couple to make a stallion.
No, that's for sure.
We're hopeful a couple of those can come through for him, and people will soon know who Ironicus is.
Well, he had a lot of success on the grass, but I mean, this pedigree obviously can get you dirt, no doubt. What are you seeing from these horses? Is there a 2-year-old maybe that's named that I can look forward to?
We have one that we like, but I don't want to jinx them.
Oh, okay.
I don't like talking about unraised 2-year-olds. I mean, they're full of hopes and dreams.
Right.
So until you line them up, you don't really know what you have. So
right. True.
We'll see what happens, but we with that pedigree and his race record, and I think he's a great value at $5,000.
I would have to agree with you. Now, a horse that is just getting his career off and is having success is Lee. And Lee, again, by First Samurai. Love that he's out of a Galileo mare also. I mean, this is a horse who had success he's a grade 1 winner on dirt. And then he nearly took...
Should have been on turf.
Yeah.
He never saw the horse coming.
Yes.
By a mile. Yeah, he would have been a grade 1 winner on dirt and turf. But look, he's got 2 stakes winners. He actually didn't break his maiden until May of his 3-year-old year. So all these horses that he has running, to me, they're already exceeding expectations, because
that's awesome.
They're doing something that he couldn't do. So, any other crop of stallions, he would be at the top of the list. Unfortunately, he is in one of the most competitive bunches that I can ever remember.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, look at the crop he's against American Pharoah and Constitution, and Williams Map. Honor Code. You go on, and those are some really serious racehorses. But he's not in the top 10, but he's right outside there, and he's going to have a big chance. He's got a good book of horses coming, and this fourth crop's obviously always really hard. So he doesn't have as many mares this year as we'd like, but he needs something to happen to the track. But I'm holding out hope for the summer and fall, see what they can do.
Again, this is just a factor where you're getting such great versatility, and we've got to give a shout out to him also for running second to Liam's Map, who set a record that day in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
Turn for home. Lee looked like he had it, but Liam's Map was too much to handle. He's an unbelievably talented horse, and but he's lost nothing in a defeat to finish second to Liam's Map in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
That's definitely true. Now, another horse that people have expectations of is Mastery. Mastery showed so much talent, didn't get to fully realize it. Son of Candy Ride, who was freakishly talented. And then he's out of an Old Trieste mare who happens to be a three-quarter sister to Jumpstart, because Jumpstart is by AP Indy. Old Trieste himself, who the dam sire, is by AP Indy. And it's the female family of Milwaukee, who's a horse I've always been really keen on. And I was just looking, and it says that this first book included 84 black-type mares/producers, including the dams of Monomoy Girl and Musical Romance. And Monomoy Girl, I mean, that's pretty exciting with everything she put together, showing, that 3-year-old season, winning the Kentucky Oaks and the Ashland, the Acorn, the Coaching Club America Oaks, and winning the Breeders' Cup Distaff. It's pretty cool to have that dam, especially now with Mr. Monomoy doing so well. Bred to Master.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever turned down more mares than we've accepted, but for Master we did.
Really?
I mean, the demand for him was absolutely incredible.
Wow.
He set the record for most the highest bred mares for any stallion that's ever stood at Claiborne.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Yeah, we try to manage our books. He only bred 141, but that's a whole lot for us.
Yeah.
Not so much for maybe some other farms, but for us that's a whole lot. But the demand for him was incredible, and we're really excited about him. I know I keep saying that, but
no, I would be too.
He was 4 for 4, and he was never tested. He was clear-cut favorite for the Derby that year. Who knows what he could have been? So I mean, he could have won the Triple Crown. He's not a Bob Baffert horse. Who knows? He might could have won the Triple Crown. So
no, I mean that's just such an exciting, to see the potential there, and just to hear that people did recognize what he did on track, and to have like you were saying. Can you actually explain that to our viewers? Because I don't think some people realize just how Claiborne handles their stud books a bit differently than some other farms might.
I mean, we've always just limited our books. We always just try to keep demand really high, and supply low, and let the sires speak for themselves. And it's that way we don't have to really try and sell them their second, third, and fourth years.
Right.
There's enough people that got turned away those first couple of years that want to come back and breed to the horse, and we think it's fair for them, it's for the breeder, and it creates more value for those breeders that get involved with them, with the stallion.
It's exciting for sure. Now another stallion on the roster is Orb, who won the Florida Derby and the Kentucky en route to winning the Kentucky Derby, and that's kind of fitting because he's Orb. By Malibu Moon is out of an Unbridled mare. Unbridled did the same. Unbridled, of course, also went on to win the Breeders' Cup Classic in 1990. His name is one of those names on the fabled stall there at Claiborne Farm. And Orb, I think a lot of people forget that he's actually from the female family of Ruffian. Also includes Private Turns of Coronada's Quest. Yeah. So how's he?
That's a huge Phipps Janney family, and he was when he won the Derby that day. That race call is very memorable, and it's Larry Comus yells Orb, and they're in the slop, and it was pretty awesome to be there to experience that, and makes you so proud that you raised a Derby winner.
Well, yeah. Well, can you actually? I always thought it was so interesting, that little scar on his nostril. Can you give the story behind that?
Yeah, he's pretty tough, and he gets that Malibu moon blood.
Yeah,
and he's a rascal, and I guess he acted up at the track one day and he cut his nose open. But yeah, that's where he's got that scar on his nose. But yeah, he is. I was just so happy for the Phipps family and the Janney family to finally win the Derby, and have been such great and loyal clients to us, and it was very fulfilling to see them win, and obviously Showed too win his first Derby. So that was a great day.
Can you elaborate on the relationship that you've had with the Phipps and the Janneys, and just basically the genesis of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's multi-generational. We're still going today. Daisy and Ogden are great, and I still, I obviously talked to Mr. Janney himself. But that's a multi-generational client there that my father, my grandfather, we've all had relationships with their parents and grandparents too. So it goes back a long way, and we're just so thankful to have those kind of clients keep their horses and trust us to take care of their horses.
Yeah, it's really remarkable to see such a relationship, like you said, just go on for that, as you said it, generation after generation. It just speaks to the integrity of the relationship and the joys that you've shared. It's nice to see the success blossom out of that, because it's a lot of trust having horses, in partnership or in the care of somebody else. And it's sort of a legacy thing. It's just nice to see, within racing you have these dynasties, and I have to say the Claiborne Hancock family is a dynasty of racing, and it's just nice to see these other dynasties also having that relationship, and then we all get to root for the progeny that comes out of it, and the progeny, of course, being horses.
we couldn't have done it without clients like them, so we're very honored and thankful to have them still around, and the relationships we've had throughout the years has been spectacular. So
yeah,
very thankful for that.
Some of my favorite horses have been wearing that that cherry cap, including, as we've already mentioned before, Personal Ensign and Easy Goer. So moving on, let's talk about a horse who's been sponsoring a whole heck of a lot, and that is Runhappy.
Yeah, he's Runhappy. If you haven't heard about him, you've been living under rocks. So,
yeah, I know, right?
I can't help you there. But, first crop 2-year-olds, and we honestly couldn't be more excited about what we're hoping for Runhappy's to do this summer and fall.
Well, I mean, this is a horse that raced medication-free. He's won on, synthetic. He broke his maiden. He's obviously won a ton on dirt, including the 2015 Breeders' Cup Sprint there at Keeneland. And it's just really nice to see this horse coming through, as we said, racing medication free, when we're not having the new protocols coming down, no Lasix for 2-year-olds. So how does that come into play for you in terms of marketing this horse? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but just having that that proof that you can say, look, this horse accomplished grade 1 ability, championship seasons, and he's standing at our farm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a philosophy that Mr. McInville is very keen on, and he's wanted to hammer that home, and with the elimination of Lasix and starting 2-year-old races this year, that I think that's obviously played into Runhappy being so popular. He's another horse that I was walking into Bernie's office today, and he was telling someone, "No, sorry, I can't. Runhappy's full. We can't slip you in." But everyone wants to breed a Runhappy, and I think this time next year you might even be more popular than he is now.
Well, here we see that AP Indy influence, because Runhappy's son of Super Saver won the Kentucky Derby. AP Indy is Super Saver's dam sire. And then Runhappy's dam is by Broken Vow, a son of the aforementioned Unbridled. So it's nice to have that connection to a horse who stood at your farm and made such a tremendous impact. I mean, when I talk about Unbridled, I mean, that's a horse that not only won the Classic, but he went on to himself just be tremendously influential as a sire. One of the most notable horses we saw come from him is 95's juvenile champion and prepotent sire Unbridled Song. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say that's Runhappy's got a family on top, and obviously I'm bridal on the bottom, and we got the Ashew Farm. They bred them. They're great friends. We've known them for a while, and then they do a really good job. So it's kind of one of those full circle deals that you really hope works out.
Well, yeah, and that Breeders' Cup Sprint victory over Private Zone. I was a huge Private Zone fan, but if any horse was going to beat him that day, I was happy it was going to be Runhappy. He's a beautiful horse on top of it.
No, he's an absolute superstar physical.
Yeah.
If you want to ask what a good racehorse and stallion look like, just take a picture of Runhappy and that's what show him, because he doesn't. It's hard to find a better physical than what he has.
He's so beautifully balanced. It's so nice and round, and the bone on him is beautiful.
No, perfect. Yeah.
So now let's talk about a stallion that needs no introduction, but we're gonna do it anyway, just because people can't read my mind. I'm talking about War Front.
Yes, War Front. Yeah, he's been unbelievable for us. He was a horse that was a little unproven at the track, and when it came to time to retire him, my dad thought he was a spitting image of Danzig, and we had just recently lost Danzig, and he thought, well, War Front was his last crop, so if Danzig was going to have one more good one, he thought it might be War Front. Thankfully, it worked out well for us.
You can really see not only the Danzig influence, but Danzig, of course, the Northern Dancer. I mean, this horse had so much success early on at stud with turfers, including like Declaration of War, that was a scintillating finish in the Breeders' Cup Classic with Mucho Macho Man, and oh my gosh, who was second that day? It was Mucho Macho Man. Will Take Charge. It was Will Take Charge and Declaration of War right there at the wire. And that was so exciting. And that was that horse's first start on dirt. But yeah, I mean, War Front, I think he was getting pigeonholed as a turf horse, yet his success had come on dirt. And now people are seeing that more to the forefront because he just had Omaha Beach drop jaws with his performances on track, and War of Will win the Preakness. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, look, he started out as a dirt horse. He obviously ran on dirt, but his first couple big horses were on dirt. You had the Factor.
Yes, that's right.
And you had a horse that we actually campaigned named Departing. He won a couple of the state derbies, and he that's how it kind of got a start. And then Coolmore got involved, and they really loved the horse and loved what they were seeing, and they started breeding a lot of their top quality mares to him. Yeah. And they would take them back over to Ireland and race them in Europe, and obviously it's predominantly turf over there, so they started winning on it, and then he kind of got a stigma of being a turf horse, but it was actually pretty refreshing this past year to see that people just all of a sudden remembered that he can can be a dirt sire as well with War of Will and Omaha Beach. So those two horses winning, that was big for him because it actually people started breeding a lot of dirt mares back to him, which they kind of were all primarily turf mares there for a while.
And one of those dirt mares is pretty illustrious, a 4-time Eclipse champion, and that is Beholder. She had a War Front filly this year. So when they came to you and said, we want to breed Beholder, how excited were you?
Oh, it was great. I mean, anytime you can get a mare like Beholder or a champion race mare like that to come to one of your stallions is a big deal. So, yeah, that was great. And we're hopeful for the filly's future.
Have you gone and seen her in person?
I've just seen pictures, but all reports are very positive, and those guys are pros over there, so I trust their opinion.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure. Hopefully, Mr. Mandela will have a chance and replicate her success. It'll be a lot of fun to follow.
Well, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, this is a horse. It's 24% black type winners, right? It's like 21 graded stakes winner, or 21 grade 1 winners rather. So 15% black type winners, 24% black type horses. It's nice to see when you have that type of horse commanding a stud fee. I mean, he's returning it. This is not, you're getting what you pay for with him. I mean, he's...
Yeah, I mean, we ran an ad in the Teed-In today. I thought it was a really good ad. It just showcases all the top sires and how much, his percentage of stakes winners is so much higher than theirs.
Yeah.
People... Because he's a little older now, I think they kind of tend to forget just because he doesn't have a really now horse right now because Omaha Beach retired, but hopefully one will come along this year, and he's obviously a top sire for a reason.
Well, you gotta love it. Again, 21 Grade 1 winners, and that number I'm expecting is going to go up, especially after, like as you said, we're going to see more of these dirt mares and their progeny come forward. Now, we've gone over so many horses just because, again, the legacy of this farm is unfreaking believable. Is there a horse that I did not go over from the past, or that you feel like, we would be remiss not to mention? I know, it's crazy.
Of our current stallions, we obviously have Catholic Boy new this year.
Yes, Catholic Boy. Oh my gosh. You know what? I think we skipped because you know what? I can't skip over him because Catholic Boy, not only was he incredible on track, this is a horse that won the Grade 1 Belmont Derby Invitational on turf and then turned around and won the Grade 1 Runhappy Travers on dirt. So, that's a feat that's only happened with two other horses, one of which is Secretariat, the other being California Crow, winning Grade 1s on both surfaces at 3 years old. But also, Catholic Boy and I share a birthday, April 12th.
Oh, there you go.
How can I go over him? I can't. I'm so sorry. So, yeah.
No problem. Yeah, no, he was one of 3-year-olds ever to win Grade 1 on turf and dirt as a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So, joining Secretariat, actually. So,
yeah.
Being by More Than Ready and out of a Bernardini mare, who's a great broodmare sire.
Yes.
He's very versatile. He won Grade 6, 2, 3, and 4, dirt and turf. Sky's the limit for him.
Oh, and
it really looks like versatility is in vogue these days.
That's
if you can get a stallion that can do both, they're going to turn out to be very popular, and it just provides their offspring with so many better chances.
Well, one of the things also is just the juvenile success as well. Yes, it says he was 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. However, that was only 1.5 lengths off your winner Mendelssohn, Beholder's little half brother. So he was already showing talent early, and as you mentioned, by More Than Ready. More Than Ready has had so much success at stud, especially in Breeders' Cup competition. This is a horse who sired 6 individual Breeders' Cup winners in More Than Real, Pluck, Regally Ready, Roy H., who you guys raised, Rushing Fall, and Uni. And as you also mentioned, Catholic Boy being out of Song of Bernadette by Bernardini, again, a son of AP Indy. Bernardini, you called it. He has been on the rise as a broodmare sire. It's really exciting. And you must have, when did you have the stallion deal inked? Because was it before Serengeti Empress even? She too has Bernardini as the broodmare sire.
Yeah, no, we did that right before the Breeders' Cup. Last year, not this past year, but the year before.
Oh.
We saw his talent, and we obviously don't have actually a son of More Than Ready in the Halo line.
Yeah.
We don't have a stallion like him in our stud barn, so he actually brings a lot of variety, and we thought he was going to really cross well with a lot of our War Front mares. So we've actually bred a lot of our War Front mares to him this year, and historically that cross has been really good. So
that's exciting.
Hopefully it just continues and replicates.
No, that's exciting. And how fun, by the way, was it that it being born April 12th this year, that falls on Easter, and his name is Catholic Boy? Kind of gotta love that.
Actually, I didn't even think about that.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
But
good point.
Talking about all of this and just the expectations and being excited for progeny from new stallions to stallions that you've already have proved themselves. And now with what's happening, I just want to get into this real quickly because I think it's important to discuss how the current situation with COVID-19 and the social distancing and the different various protocols that have come into place that have also then created ripples along every industry, including the racing industry, and pushing back race dates. And then that has an impact on what happens in terms of black type for horses who would be running in stakes races otherwise, and just getting their year off, even start for these 2-year-olds, getting the year started off. What is your whole, obviously we already know how, what's being done needs to be done. There's no question. Lives are always going to be paramount. But that being said, what is your overall view, or what you've heard from other people maybe in the industry, about how you now assess black type going forward for the rest of the year. What's going on even protocol wise with the breeding season for you guys there at Claiborne, and just overall feel of what's going on currently in regard to COVID-19 affecting the racing industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate for us. First off, it's a terrible thing that's going on, and it's absolutely the correct thing that Keeneland had to do to shut down and shelter in place. And I totally get that move. And but look, it is going to affect black tie. We have worst name performer that we own, the Phipps and Peter Brandt. We're really high on, and he'll hopefully be a stallion prospect for us next year. We're going to run him in the Carter, and if he wins that Grade 1, he's obviously an instant stallion prospect.
Yeah.
So it definitely hurts, but obviously the right things are being done. Hopefully we get opened up sooner than later. Hopefully they can figure out a way to safely conduct the race meets without harming and putting anyone in harm, their health and safety. So that's obviously a priority, and that has to take precedent. But you're right. It's tough. No one's having any income. I feel for these trainers and their hot walkers and grooms and riders, and thankfully here at the farm, mares aren't going to stop foaling, and we still have to breed stallions, but we have changed our protocols to fall in line with the CDC guidelines. But we deal with herd health in the first place, so we have to have good biosecurity measures. It's nothing new for us to have to sanitize shanks, and you just make sure that we practice good sanitation and health and safety. But we've had to change a little bit. The yearling crew's not just one big crew anymore. It's split up into 3 or 4 kind of smaller crews. That way, in case someone were, God forbid, get sick, the rest of the crew could still take care of the horses. And that's like I said, that's priority. We have a lot of people don't understand that they can't take care of themselves.
No.
So we have to have that we have about 100 employees, and so 100 families are relying on us to keep a paycheck coming in to provide for their families, and I don't take that responsibility lightly. So we're fighting through this, and we're figuring out best ways to proceed, and obviously sooner the racing can get going again, the better it will be for all.
Oh, definitely. Have you seen anything happening in terms of bookings being changed, just simply because people now, with the uncertainty of what's happening when basically the economy will be able to get back in motion? Have you seen changes with that, or people just
No, thankfully no. Our shed list in the morning, we have 11 of our 12 stallions breeding in the morning, so it hasn't stopped us. Like I said, we have about 20 mares left to foal. We can't stop. Just we have to do what's necessary to follow in with the guidelines. But this is a busy time of year for us, and thankfully we haven't seen a drop in business. Now, I will say, I'm sure once the sales come around in the late summer and fall, we'll unfortunately have to see a drop in prices. But that's something that's okay. We'll be all right. But we have to just keep everyone safe and healthy, and get through this.
Well, on a happier note, what is you wear so many hats as a president. What is your favorite aspect of being the president of Claiborne Farm?
Well, it's a responsibility I don't take lightly. It's like I said, we have 100 employees that I feel that I'm in charge of, and make sure that they can provide for their families. And we go to sale. It's exciting because you have a foaling season, you have a breeding season, you have a kind of a racing season in the middle of summer and the fall, and then you have the sales again in the fall and winter. So you wake up depending on the month, and it's something different every day. You manage a stable of about 25 race horses. You have 12 stallions. 150 foals and 200 mares and 125 yearlings. So it's certainly a big responsibility, and I'm thankful to be in the position I'm in.
Oh gosh. Oh, you know what? I would be remiss to not ask you this, because somebody wanted to know about Secretariat and his heart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when they did the autopsy after he passed away, they found out it was 3 times the size of a normal horse. So that was one of the reasons he was such a great racehorse on the track.
It's incredible. He literally had heart, right?
Yeah.
And
humongous.
Oh gosh, again, not to bore you with my fangirling, but seriously, he's my favorite horse of all time. So it's just
I certainly understand that.
Well, I mean, how can you compare when this is it's really interesting too, because we were actually talking online. Somebody was talking about how good this horse was also on the grass. And I said, well, yeah, I think Ron Turcotte actually said he's at least 10 to 15 lengths better on grass. Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, he proved it a couple times.
Yes. Woodbine.
Yeah, what an absolute animal.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, I don't know. Like I said, he's a horse that captures the imagination. And I think part of that for me is, in my mind, it's like, well, wow, if God can grace an animal with such ability, just a love for what he does, what can he grace within us? So I think that's part of the allure too of just what Secretariat represents for me. But also, I mean, just the name. That's the name that transcends the sport itself. I mean, people might not know, different horses that have become famous in racing over the years, but you say Secretariat, and I think mainstream people, they'll recognize that.
Oh yeah. I can go anywhere in the world, with people I ask what I do or whatever, and inevitably the Secretariat comes up, and they're so just amazed. And everyone has heard of Secretariat, and they've learned that he's buried at our farm. I think it's the coolest thing. So.
Oh, it's insane, right?
It's very, very blessed and honored that he was a part of our legacy.
Is there while I have you on the line and talking about, is there any story that, I mean, with him being so famous, we've heard basically all the major stories about him. I mean, Bill Mack was a fabulous orator. I mean, he really brought, not only in his books, but just as a speaker, he really painted the most beautiful picture of this horse and his accomplishments. But with having him been there at the farm, and is there any story that your dad ever told you that's not been part of the more mainstream storytelling of Secretariat? I threw you a curveball, sorry.
What's that?
I said I threw a curveball, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't expecting that question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. No, not really. I mean, look, he's such a storied horse that I'm not sure there hasn't been a story untold about. But no, I don't unfortunately know any stories that
it's okay.
You haven't heard or read.
All right, well then I'm going to ask you a question about yourself. So with what's going on, and I'm asking every guest this until this lockdown is over, you're in a better position than a lot of people in that you are in an essential business situation. You have to take care of the horses, so you are able to get out, and you've got beautiful Claiborne Farm on which to roam. But still, I mean, you are limited. There's still restaurants closed and various other things that people like to enjoy aren't going on, whether it's a game other than horse racing or concerts, etc. So how are you getting through this? Is there like a crap TV show you like? Is there food that you're just binging on that you normally wouldn't do so?
Look, I'm thankful I live on the farm. So after work, me and my wife have been taking walks. It's nice to get out. We have 3,000 acres here.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Take however long walk we want. And thankfully the weather's been pretty nice. Not this week, but a couple weeks past it has been. But, I can't. I'm not a big movie guy, but I have watched some Netflix shows. We watched
Tiger King.
Yeah, of course, Tiger King. We watched that. We saw all of Ozark. I love that show.
We watched that too.
We've actually followed it throughout its career here, but
yes.
They just released the third season here recently, so we watched that. I found myself watching some old football games or something on TV at night, or.
You love football, right?
Yeah, I love football. Actually, I worked for the University of Florida football team for 2 years, so Yeah, but I have some kayaks and we go to the creek and fish and stuff. So thankfully, I've been able to stay sane and be able to get out.
So, okay, I won't spoil the ending, but oh, dear goodness, that season finale, Ozark, crazy. And then, Tiger King, I think Matt and I are into the fourth episode, so we're not very far.
We actually watched it 2 times through.
Oh, really?
Just to make sure we didn't miss anything.
Oh, wow. That's dedication right there. So I'm guessing you don't have any kids yet.
No kids.
Okay, that's why you can binge. So, now, what are your expectations? Because here you fell in love with racing. You fell in love with Claiborne Farm and what it represents to this industry. Something that's been going there since man has been able to climb on the back of a horse. He's been racing them to see who had the faster one, I'm sure. So, so, with that being something that just came naturally to you, the love and passion for it, that's not always going to be the case. You might have a family of doctors and a kid doesn't want to do that. But it's so wonderful that you did. How much are you hoping that your child will love what you do so you can pass on the baton or hand over the reins?
Look, my dad didn't put any pressure on me, and I think that was key to probably why I enjoyed it so much.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't anticipate putting on any pressure on any of my kids. If this is something they want to do, I hope they enjoy it, and that's something they do want to do. But by no means will I be disappointed if they don't. It's like I said, one of the reasons I think I took such a keen interest is because my dad wasn't making me get up and go muck stalls and go to the sale and go do this. And if it was one of those things that was forced on me, I'm sure I probably would have turned my nose to it. But it kind of came naturally to me, and like I said, I got an early taste of what it was like with pulpit, and it's something I kind of. Once I realized I wasn't going to be a professional baseball player, it was something I always wanted to do.
Oh, that's actually Matt's favorite sport is baseball.
Yeah, it was mine growing up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're just talking about pulpit, and that's no wonder. You're going to be a fan of a horse like that. Not only for what he did on the track for you, but when you have a horse that's bringing together vestiges of what Claiborne already had with him, being from the Mr. Prospector line on the bottom, and then AP&D there being on the top, and as we discussed with AP&D having that connection to Slew and Secretariat, it's got to be exciting from that perspective as well. So it's all about the generations. It's all about not only with the horses but with the people. And as we talked about, you're the 4th generation, Hancock, to take over the reins there. There is a saying by which you live by, and it comes down from your grandfather, I believe. Can you tell our viewers?
Yep. Yeah, we just try and do the usual and usually well.
And what does that mean to you?
It's just a kind of simplistic a way of thinking. We put the horses first. We always just do what's right by them. We don't have the fanciest facilities, but we just make sure the horses have good, clean hay and water, and they have the best access to the best ground the grass they can eat, and it's just doing the little things right that a lot of people kind of look over. So that's played into our success for over 110 years now, and hopefully it will continue into the future.
Well, Walker, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me and the Future Stars Friday crew who's watching, and I wish you all the best on your future success. We've been talking about stars of the past. You've got so many stars of the future yet to shine.
Well, I sure hope so, and hopefully we'll have some solid representation in the Breeders' Cup this fall.
All right, well, I look forward to it. I look forward to the next time I can actually see you in person. So, everybody watching, thanks again to Walker. I hope you enjoy this. I sure did. I was fangirling the whole time. So, this has been your Future Stars Friday forecast. I'll see you back here next week.